Fatela duro! 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 Capra ignorante!
Hello guys and welcome back to the 35th episode of Italian Politician of the Week. I am Ipernick and I make weekly videos on Italian politics and history in English. Last time we talked about Cicciolina, the porn star who entered parliament and flashed her tits on her rallies. Today we're talking about Gianluigi Paragone, the former TV host who got elected into parliament in 2018 and founded the party Italexit, that seeks to take Italy out of the European Union. Paragone is an odd one. There are times when he seems even delusional. He represents the voters who don't know what the EU is, but yet hate it. And he embodies the spirit of the Italians who do the exact opposite of what the state wants them to do, regardless of what it actually is. Without further ado, let's jump into it. Paragone was born in 1971 in Varese. He began his career as journalist by writing for local newspapers about Lega Nord and their rallies involving Bossi and Maroni. He then began hosting the local news in Rete 55 until he became the manager for the League's party paper Padania and later the right-hand man of Vittorio Feltri in Libero. Then in 2010 Paragone began to host his own show at Rai called The Last Word, which turned out to be a very successful debate show with many popular guests. It also had a pretty good niche because it paired music with politics. Seeing his popularity rising, Paragone began to branch off from Lega Nord's official party position, something that he was 100% allowed to do as a journalist, and looking back at it, it was generally harmless. Paragone was a member of Lega all the way back then, however he took the liberty to preserve his freedom of thought, something that Bossi didn't appreciate, since he hoped to use Paragone's platform to push for his party agenda. After falling out in 2011, Bossi forbade any of his party members to take part in the program. The drama escalated into some very intense arguments between Paragone and some other right-wing guests that called Paragone out for being a traitor. The tension seemed positive at first, since it brought a lot of good ratings, but when it came to personal relations with many of his former colleagues, the show only served to rub salt on the wound. By 2013, Paragone had climbed up all the way to Rai 2's summit, becoming its vice president. However, due to a change in the leadership, Paragone left Rai, putting an end to his beloved show. He won't waste any time though. He will sign a contract with La Sette instead, where he hosted The Cage, a show with a similar format than the previous one, but with a crucial difference. The program gave ample space to anti-system positions, hosting anti-Euro journalists and economists and criticizing European-style neoliberalism. These messages resonated a lot with the early five-star movement, and most of La Sette for that matter, and Paragone joined them in 2017, shortly after leaving The Cage for another change in leadership. Paragone's first big cause that pushed them into politics and joining the five-star movement was the approval in parliament of the Lorenzin law, passed by the Minister of Healthcare at the time, Beatrice Lorenzin, who currently inhabits the pole limbo in the Ipernick the Great channel. The law essentially made it illegal to send your kids to public schools without being vaccinated to a few diseases like measles. The topic of vaccination is hotter than ever today, so be sure to like the video if you want to see an episode on Beatrice Lorenzin, who is also very controversial even without considering the topic of mandatory vaccination. Paragone was, and still is, opposed to mandatory vaccination. In fact, he embraces a very libertarian position when it comes to things like these, although without the charm, the eloquence, and the logic that some other people with similar opinions like Sgarbi or even Salvini and Meloni have on the matter. Sgarbi opposes it because he finds the application of the Green Pass incoherent. Vaccines work, but he doesn't understand why we need to keep the masks on even after getting both doses. charges, and so he sees no reason in enforcing such precaution if the violation of individual freedoms aren't actually worth the cost of collective safety. Salvini's and Meloni's position is also reasonable, although a bit dishonest on Meloni's part, since she was in favor of mandatory vaccination 3 years ago. They don't agree with the implementation of the Green Pass because it acts as an obstacle for businesses who have to actively ask their customers for documentation they really don't care about. Not to mention the people that can't get vaccinated because they already had 1 or 2 doses of a vaccine that isn't recognized, like Sputnik that is given out in San Marino, or the veterans who acted as test subjects at the earliest stages of development of the vaccine. Since I really want to give Meloni some props, I will not be mentioning her argument involving illegal immigration, where she's like, oh, we live in a dictatorship because an Italian can't go to a restaurant without a vaccine, but black people can sail here and do whatever they want, like if those are comparable things. Paragone, on the other hand, seems to be against mandatory vaccination just because it is mandatory and because the EU told him to do it. Or at least, I guess that's the point. He's not very good at explaining why he doesn't like it. So anyway, after quitting TV, he joined the 5-Star Movement, as I said, got elected into parliament, and similarly to Calenda, when Conte's second cabinet came to be, he refused to vote in favor and made his own party called Italexit in mid-2020. As its name implies, it's a movement entirely devoted to the idea of leaving the European Union because I guess it is bad and ugly. When he wrote his political agenda, he probably asked for Meloni's, Berlusconi's, and Calenda's notes and started copying them to random points. The heavy nationalism from Meloni, the social media and TV strategies from Berlusconi, and he got from Calenda the idea of running for mayor in big cities elections for publicity stunts. In May, Paragone announced his candidacy in Milan. He might win a seat in the city council, and I'm not willing to put any money in anything else, to be honest. Paragone is also one of those people that are politically isolated, but unlike Calenda, there are many good reasons for it, and he is responsible for most of them. His rants on YouTube are often delirious, and he tries too much to copy what the others are doing without really getting why. Polls show Italexit at little more than 1%, and in order to get at least 1 seat in parliament, you need at least 3%. Well, at least according to the current electoral law, which is bound to change before 2023 because we halved the number of members of parliament. Whenever Paragone encounters people who disagree with him on TV, he teases them by making funny noises and calling them stupid. He is truly a clown, and he deserves all the consequences resulting from his actions. It is a shame because he's a good journalist and he can be entertaining, but now he has burned too many bridges and he's ultimately alone. What do you guys think about Paragone? Do you think he has any merits? I will see you next time.